Welcome back to another episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. It is a milestone week for the show. It is episode 10 of my show. And as of yesterday, technically, the show has been around for exactly 1 month. And I gotta say that it's coming along quite nicely. As from a view standpoint, it is coming along quite nicely. I'm very pleased with how the show has been going thus far. I'm very pleased with I'm very grateful and appreciative of anyone and everyone that watches my content. Maybe not on a daily, but they watch it every now and then. Very appreciative of all the views, and all the likes, and the comments that I've been getting. So, with that being said, overall, I am very pleased with how the show has been going, and I'm very pleased with the direction that it's going. I've got a lot of great ideas that will be coming through, that will be put into action throughout the year as I continue the show. And I got a lot of, new things coming up. I'm still working on, creating an actual intro for the show and an actual outro for the show and things of that nature. I'm still working on that stuff, as well as some other things for the show to make it, a quality premium watch. A quality premium watch for you guys. But I appreciate all the views and anyone who views this video. Thank you very much for putting the show in the right direction and continuing to, again, maybe not watch on a daily, but at least give my content a watch. So with that being said, thank you guys for making this in my opinion, a successful first month of the show. So with that being said, let's get into today's episode 10 of the Life's Playbook podcast. It's time to talk about the national championship that went down Monday, and time to take a peek into the future in the NFL and see who might be the potential Super Bowl matchup. With the conference championship games being set for this Sunday, it's time to see who I think has the best chance to make the Super Bowl. With that being said, let's get into today's episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. And as always, the game never ends here at the Life's Playbook podcast. Let's get into it. Let's start with the national championship, shall we? National championship was this Monday. Ohio State and Notre Dame went at it in a very heartfelt game. The game means a lot to me specifically because I'm a young blood myself. And this is the first time I've ever seen my favorite team win a championship. And it's also probably going to be a long while before another team from Ohio wins a championship. I understand the Cavs they're on a roll. They're pretty much the number one team in the league right now. I understand they're in a roll, but the Cavs making a NBA Finals is not guaranteed just because they're the number one team in the NBA. And the Browns are the Browns, and I'm not a Bengals fan or none of that. I'm not a Cincinnati baseball team fan. I'm a Guardians fan, sure, but Guardians, they are playoff caliber, but they didn't get the job done in this season. So it might be a while before another team from Ohio makes another championship, let alone wins it. It might be a long while. So this national championship, for me personally, means a lot because this is the first time I've ever witnessed greatness. And greatness that game was. I'm not going to dive deep into the game, play by play, but I will say, I will, give you guys my opinion on how this year went and what I think this game means for not only Ohio State, for not only Notre Dame, but for the 12-team playoffs in general. So, with that being said, let's get into it. This game was very good. It was a very good game. It wasn't a blowout in the beginning, though it was, and we all thought, especially the Ohio State fans, thought that this was going to be a blowout. And I said, a week ago that a blowout would not look good for this national championship game. It would not look good for college football, and it would not look good for the first year of the 12-team college football playoffs. And in the beginning, it shaped up to be that way. Ohio State jumped up on Notre Dame early, 21-7. And I thought this was not going to end very well in terms of ratings and in terms of the future of college football. I thought it was not going to end well at all. But Notre Dame, they showed some fight in that second half. Best second half team in the country is Notre Dame. I got to give them credit. They fought back They fought back hard against a very explosive and a very powerful and a very motivated Ohio State team. But Notre Dame is the best second half team in that entire college football playoffs. So I got to give them credit for that. I got to give them credit for making the game a game, because this national championship not only means a lot to Ohio State and college football, but it also means a lot in terms of the road ahead for the 12-team college football playoffs moving forward. Yes, there are still problems, but this national championship showed that anybody has a chance. Anybody has a chance to win, and it also shows that there's not going to be a real powerhouse like we've had in the past. There's not going to be a real dynasty with this setting, at least not in college football. In the NFL, it's a little easier to start a dynasty and be on a roll for an extended period of time, but in college football, you're not really going to have that opportunity, and every team's going to have an opportunity to win a chip. Again, nobody thought that with the records that Notre Dame and Ohio State had in the old 4-team playoffs, Ohio State wouldn't have even been in with 2 losses. In the old 4-team playoffs, they wouldn't have even been in. Notre Dame probably wouldn't have been in with that 1 loss to NIU. They probably wouldn't have been in. But what this national championship shows, and I said it again, I'll say it again, this national championship shows that any team has a chance. Any team has an equal chance, and there may not be a clear powerhouse in the next playoff years to come. Now, I do think they should stick with the 12-team playoffs. I think it adds diversity as to who we see in the brackets. Again, they got to get the seeding right. I don't think it was exactly fair that, and I'm an Ohio State fan, and I'm saying that I don't think it's exactly fair that Oregon had, one of the hardest paths to a national championship, and that they had to play Ohio State right off the bat, knowing that Ohio State is on the high that they were. But again, this national championship showed quite a bit, and it showed a lot of upside to this 12-team playoffs. I said it again a week ago that it's good that it was not going to be good that if this national championship game turned out to be a blowout, it was not going to look good, and it was going to really show problems with this formatting. And there are still problems with the formatting, don't get me wrong, but the national championship also showed that there was some upside to the formatting. But again, there are some things that need to be fixed, and I think this offseason, the committee needs to take a look in the mirror and take a look at this playoff, and they need to figure out what to fix and figure out what to improve on. So that's the first takeaway that I think is very good for college football and from the national championship game. Second, another takeaway, again, it means a lot to young bloods like me, because if anybody who's an Ohio fan, who's a fan of any team located in Ohio, they know it's going to be a while before our team makes another championship. Again, the Cavs right now are the best chance we have, and even that's not a guaranteed. But it's going to be a while before another Ohio team makes a championship. It's going to be a while before another Ohio team wins a championship, no matter what sport. So it means a lot to me in that sense. It means, talking more specific to the teams, it means a lot to Ohio State in the fact that if you look at how their season went, and everybody knows how this Ohio State team season went. It was, you could argue with that loss to Michigan, it was not a good season. That rivalry game really shapes the Ohio State season in a nutshell. And, Ohio State has lost to Michigan 4 straight years, and that doesn't look good. And it didn't look good for Ryan Day. It doesn't look good on Ryan Day's resume. But this national championship means a lot to Ohio State in terms of it saved their season. It saved Ryan Day's season. It solidified Ryan Day as one of the best coaches to coach Ohio State. Now, again, he still has naysayers. He still has doubters. As long as he continues to lose to Michigan, there's always going to be, the doubters are always going to show up. There's always going to be the same talk every year. Can Ryan Day win the big one, which is beat Michigan? The second big one. First big one is beat Michigan. The second big one is win a national championship. And he's proven that he can do that. He's proven that he can win the second big one, which is win a national championship. He's proven he can do that. The doubters are always going to show up with those losses to Michigan. And I think, you could argue that this loss to Michigan this year was the best thing to ever happen to Ohio State in terms of motivation and in terms of an incentive to want to win this national championship, as well as Michigan winning last year. The Big Ten now is back to back champions in national titles. Michigan won in 2023, and Ohio State won 2024 this year. The Big Ten is now the new king of college football. It is now at the better conference. If you look at it objectively, it is the better conference right now to the SEC. And I don't think there should really be any ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, all the Big Ten teams in the bowl season beat all the SEC teams in the bowl season, with a few exceptions. And again, they have two back-to-back national champions in Ohio State and Michigan. So I don't think there should be any ifs, ands, or buts in saying that the Big Ten is the new king in college football. And it is rightfully so. Ohio State, they had a great squad in 2024, and Michigan had a good squad in 2023. So it's rightfully so. Anyways, back to Ohio State. This national championship means a lot, and to the fact that it saved a lot of seasons for many of the seniors on that team. It saved, Ryan Day. It saved the coaching staff, and it really, really brings a lot of upside and hope and and joy. It was really great to see those guys happy, to see Jack Sawyer happy and walking around with the Ohio against the world banner, walking around, and they got their caps on. It was in the Gatorade shower, and Ryan Day happy. It was really brought a lot of joy to myself as an Ohio State fan, and probably to many other Ohio State fans, to see those guys happy and to see those guys compete for something bigger than just playing Michigan and win something bigger than just playing Michigan. It means a lot to the fans, and it means a lot to the seniors on that team. And it also means a lot to, some of the bigger rising stars that are on that team. And, Carnell Tate, he's going to come back next year, and Jeremiah Smith is going to come back, and Brandon Ennis is going to, get a bigger spotlight now that Emeka Ibuka is probably going to hit the draft. There's a lot of upside now with this Ohio State team. And I think, whoever is at the quarterback next year for Ohio State, I think he's got just as much of a good shot at winning a national championship as Will Howard does. I don't think Ohio State, I'm not saying Ohio State's going to, repeat. It depends, it depends on on what the squad is looking like for the 2025 season. I'm not going to automatically say Ohio State's going to repeat, but I do think that they have, a fair shot at repeating again. I don't think it's out of the limits for Ohio State. But, there's a lot of upside with this Buckeye team. And there was a lot of upside with these seniors. And now these seniors, they can now go into the draft with something. They can now go into the draft with, bragging rights that they won a national championship and that they saved their season, and that maybe the Michigan game isn't everything that matters to the Ohio State season. This national championship showed that. Ryan Day showed that with his demeanor and his attitude, that Michigan isn't the only thing that matters to Ohio State. Sure, it's nice to beat them, and it's nice to, dominate Michigan when you get the chance, but there's more to Ryan Day, and that Buckeye squad showed the college football world, and especially the Ohio State fans, that there's more to the season than just Michigan. Now, again, I'm not excusing Ryan Day's history with Michigan. He still needs to win that big one. He still needs to beat Michigan, and again, he's always going to have doubters. There's always going to be doubters as long as he continues to lose to Michigan. But I am saying that for Ohio State, there's a lot of upside after winning this national championship, and that there is more to the season than just beating Michigan. And this Ohio State Buckeye squad showed that when everything is loose, when there's nothing left to lose, you've already lost to Michigan, you've already got all the naysayers and doubters whispering in your ear, you got Michigan fans, constantly bringing up the fact that they've won 4 years straight. This Ohio State Buckeye squad showed that when all of those things are against them, and they have nothing to lose, and they can just go out there and play, they showed that they showed that when that's the case, they're the best football team in the country. They've showed that. They proved that. And, as an Ohio State fan, I love to see it. I love to see the squad get fired up and the squad blow out Tennessee and blow out Oregon and beat Texas. And they blew out Notre Dame in that first half. They got a little sloppy at the end in the second half, and Notre Dame really started to come back. But as an Ohio State fan, it's really good to see that type of energy. It's good to see that mentality come out when it's time to win the second big one, which is the national championship. It's good to see that. So that's one of my biggest takeaways as in terms of what this national championship means for Ohio State. There's a lot of upside for Ohio State. There's a lot of rising stars in Ohio State that are only going to come back and get better. And it really means a lot to the seniors because now they can go into this NFL draft with something to say. They have, a credential. They have an accolade to accompany them into this NFL draft. And it really means a lot. To not just, me, it means a lot to the seniors. As far as Notre Dame goes, I mean, they didn't win, but there's still a lot to be said about Notre Dame. There's still a lot that Notre Dame has to look forward to. Now, obviously, they're going to lose some guys in the draft, too. The seniors are going to probably hit the draft as well, and they've got some good quality players on that team that are probably entering the draft. And they have just as big of an upside as Ohio State does. They have a young roster outside of the seniors, and I think, as far as bringing more athletes in, I think they're more than capable of doing so. Marcus Freeman, he's probably going to stay. I don't expect him to go coach the Chicago Bears don't need a head coach anymore. They hired Ben Johnson, and Marcus Freeman has come out himself and said he's not interested in coaching in the NFL. So he's going to come back. I think he's going to, whatever squad he assembles in 2025, I think that squad can go just as far, if not win a national championship, and do better than the 2024 squad. I think there's just as much of an upside for Notre Dame as there is for Ohio State. I think this, and Notre Dame making a national championship was really healthy for college football and the playoffs in general, because it's been a long time coming since Notre Dame made a finals appearance, and it's been a long time coming since Notre Dame made a playoff appearance. So, Notre Dame, showing some fight in that second half and making it to the national championship, it was good for college football, and we need more of that. And I think with this 12-team playoff, you're going to see more of that type of run, that type of story, where you're going to have that one team that just magically, they have a good run. You're going to see with this format, I believe you're going to see that one team that's going to make a run and that's going to, end up in a championship, and we're going to sit there and be like, well, I never thought I'd see that team in the national championship. So I think, again, and that just refers back to the, diversity aspect. I like the idea that, it opens the gateway for a lot more teams. It opens the doorway for a lot more teams to win a national championship. And it also opens the door for many other new things for the committee to try and to come. Again, there are problems. They got to fix, the seeding, and with this being a 12-team playoff and having seen Ohio State make it in with 2 losses and Notre Dame make it in with a loss, you can make the argument that some teams may not need to try or recruit as hard because they know they can afford to lose 1 or 2 games in the college football regular season and still have a fair shot to make the college football playoffs. The committee's going to have to address that in some way or in some form. But you could argue that's going to be a problem, that some teams aren't going to really try as hard as other teams. Some teams won't need to, they can afford to lose a game or 2. They can afford to lose 1 game and still have a fair shot to make the playoffs. That's going to need to be addressed somehow, some way by the committee. I think this national championship overall, it was healthy for college football. It was the right ending to the first year of the 12-team playoffs. I think it was good for Ohio State as they made history and they won their 9th national title. I think it was good for Notre Dame as Notre Dame showed that you can win with just about anybody. You can win with anyone. And if you look at that Notre Dame team, it's not like Notre Dame had a lot of all-stars on that team like Ohio State did. It's not like they had Emeka Ibuka or a Quinshawn Judkins or a Travion Henderson. They didn't have a whole lot of stars. They really had Greathouse and Jeremiah Love. That was it. And Riley Leonard, he was good, offensively. And then defensively, they had Kaiser, and they had Watts, and that was about it. But they didn't have. It's not like they had a super team like Ohio State. They just had a bunch of guys believe that they could win a national championship. They could make it to a national championship, and they got there. They didn't win it, but they showed that you can win and you can get there with just about anyone. You don't have to have a superstar team like Ohio State or like Alabama or like Georgia or Texas or any of those big name colleges out there. You don't have to have a big team to make a big run. Notre Dame showed that, and I think it's going to resonate really well with, moving forward. It's going to resonate really well with Marcus Freeman, and it's going to resonate really well with how they, recruit moving forward. So that's my biggest takeaway from this national championship. I think this national championship was the right ending. It was the perfect ending to the first ever 12-team college football playoff, and I think it not only gives the committee a lot to look at, but it also gives, a lot. It also, again, it still highlights the problems that need to be addressed and that need to be tweaked, fixed, going into 2025. But I think it was a good national championship. I'm proud of my Buckeyes for getting the job done. Again, this national championship means a lot to me as a young kid, as a young blood, because, again, it might be a while before we see another Ohio team at the professional level or at the collegiate level make a championship or a Super Bowl or a World Series or an NBA Finals. It might be a while before we see another Ohio team make it to the big one and win a big one. So that's why it means so much to me specifically, because it's going to be a while before we see another one. But that's my biggest takeaway on this national championship. I think it was good, perfect ending. It's exactly what this college football playoff needed, and it's exactly what Ohio State needed, especially to cap off what would have been considered a bust of a season had they lost. So congratulations, Ohio State. You guys are the 2024 national champions. Now, moving up to the professional level, it is conference championship week in the NFL. The games have been set and the teams have been set. The Eagles will be taking on the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, and the Bills are getting that 2020 rematch against the Chiefs in the AFC Conference Championship. Now, let's talk about the NFC Championship. Two teams, two very good football teams. The Commanders, a very surprising team. No one ever thought they were going to make it this far. Nobody expected them to make it this far. Jaden Daniels is a walking award winner. He is the Rookie of the Year in everyone's eyes. I don't think there should be any ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's very good. That defense has showed up as of late, and they have beaten the Eagles in the regular season. They have beaten the Eagles before. But I have said in the past that certain teams are built for the NFL playoffs. The Eagles are one of them. They also have a stud star in Saquon Barkley, best running back in the league, best running back of the season, arguably one of the greatest running backs that I have ever watched in my lifetime. He is also as much of a star as Jaden Daniels, and he should be, Offensive Player of the Year, if not MVP. But he's also a star. So this is really going to come down, this championship game, in my opinion, is really going to come down to two things. Saquon Barkley's performance and Jalen Hurts' performance and Jaden Daniels' performance. Those are the two things that are going to come down to whichever team wins this game. It's going to come down to how well Jaden Daniels performs, and it's going to come down to how well Jalen Hurts and Saquon perform. Now, we've seen in the regular season that the Commanders have beaten the Eagles before. Jaden Daniels has beaten the Eagles already in the regular season. But at the same time, it was also the regular season. It wasn't the postseason. The Eagles are on a run. They're on a roll. Saquon is on a roll. They came off a massive win against the Rams. I don't know if the Commanders have it in them to beat the Eagles again. I don't know if they have it in them to do that. I would be surprised if they had it in them to do that. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Jaden Daniels has another stellar performance, just like he had against the Lions. But I'm not so sure if the Commanders have it in them again to beat another top-notch team. And just like the Lions, the Eagles also have other weapons that they can use to beat you. And they are also just as explosive at the running back position as the Lions were. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one because I think Saquon is going to have a field day. I don't know if the Commanders really have it in them again to pull off another upset, even though I would be, more than amazed if they did. But I don't think they do. I think Jalen Hurts knows that this game is going to send them to he knows that this game is going to send them to the Super Bowl. He knows he's going to have to show up and win this game. Him and Barkley are going to have to win this game for the Eagles. It's not going to be the same like the regular season. And for that reason, and plus, Saquon and Jalen Hurts both have playoff experience. So I think they're going to use their playoff experience. Nick Sirianni, I think, is going to coach a great game. I think, unlike how the Lions performed, I think the Eagles will actually overwhelm the Commanders. I thought the Lions were going to do the same thing. They were underwhelming. But I think the Eagles are going to overwhelm the Commanders this time, and I think they're going to get the job done in a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be like a 30-40 type of game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. But I'm going to rock with the Eagles to win this one purely off of Saquon's performance in the playoffs as of this year. And I think Jalen Hurts knows that he's going to need to play somewhat lights out. Because, the Commanders are no slouch. But I know he's going to have to play somewhat lights out in order to beat the Commanders this time. It's not going to be the same like the regular season because this is the postseason. Certain teams are built for the NFL playoffs, and the Eagles are one of them. So, with that being said, give me the Eagles to beat the Commanders. The AFC Championship game. This game is going to decide how this season for football in the NFL goes. It's really going to decide the mood of America. And I think all of us as NFL fans know what I'm talking about. If the Chiefs end up going back to the Super Bowl, this will not have been a good season in the NFL. I'll say it again. If the Chiefs end up going back to the Super Bowl, this will not have been a good season for the NFL. Now, it would have been, obviously, it's going to be a good season for the Chiefs fans and the Chiefs fans, because they're in the Super Bowl again and they have a chance of three-peating, which is history in the making. But America is tired of seeing the same team in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Yes, I understand there's an opportunity for history to be made. There's an opportunity for a three-peat that's never been done ever. Not even Tom Brady, who I think is the GOAT in my opinion. Not even Tom Brady has done it. So there is opportunity for history to be made, but America also understands that we don't want to see the same team in the freaking Super Bowl for a third time in a row and win it. We don't want to see that. We want to see new teams that have never had a shot at the Super Bowl or have had previous shots in the past and have lost. We want to see those teams compete for a Super Bowl. Now, granted, I did say I'm picking the Eagles to win against the Commanders, and they have won a Super Bowl somewhat recently. They won it a few years ago. But that's not the same to the level as the Chiefs. That's not the same as the level as, the Bills. The Bills they've made 4 Super Bowl appearances, and they've lost all 4. They've never won a Super Bowl. Buffalo is a phenomenal, sports organization. They got great fans that have been longing for a chance at the Super Bowl and a chance to win the Super Bowl. They have, an MVP on their team, and I think he solidified it over Lamar Jackson. I know the stats still don't really favor Josh Allen, but, after that playoff game, I think they're going to give it to Josh Allen, in the end. They got an MVP on their team who's never won a Super Bowl, who's never been to the Super Bowl. It's against his nemesis, Patrick Mahomes. He knows he's going to have to go all out. It's a great story. The Chiefs and the Bills is a great story, and it's going to be a story that we talk about for a long time. Just like Tom Brady versus Manning is a story that we still talk about even to this day. But it's time to put things to an end. It's time to put things to an end. It's time to put, the Chiefs dynasty on a hold. It's time to put the three-peat on a hold. I'm rocking with the Bills to beat the Chiefs. Now, it's not going to be an easy game. The Chiefs know this better than anybody that they're going to have to play lights out against the Bills. The Bills know that they're going to have to play lights out against the Chiefs. I understand that this has been a rocky season for the Chiefs, and they looked a little bit rocky in that first half against the Texans. But this is familiar territory for Patrick Mahomes and company. Familiar time, everything. I think that Josh Allen, again, this is also familiar territory for Josh Allen and company as well. He's been in this situation. He's going up against his nemesis. He knows that it's time to make that next step. He knows what it's going to take to beat his nemesis in Patrick Mahomes. It's going to take a lot of team effort, and he's going to need to have a MVP level performance to do this, to pull this off, to make America happy, to make America satisfied with this NFL season. It's going to take a lot. So with that being said, Bills, you have the entire nation behind your back right now. We are all rooting for you. Anybody, and I'm not talking Chiefs fans, you guys are not included in this. But everybody outside of the Chiefs organization and fan base, I think I can say with all honesty, we are all rooting for Bills Mafia to stop Kermit the Frog, a.k.a. Patrick Mahomes, and stop the Chiefs dynasty from three-peating. Even though, again, it is history. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see a three-peat. We'd all love to see a three-peat for the first time in NFL history. It is history. And it's something that's never been done before, even with the GOAT Tom Brady. But this isn't the year to do it. This is not the year that we want to see it. We don't want to see another Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. We want to see, or at least I want to see, a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl. I think that would be a bit better of a watch. I think that would be a bit more entertaining of a watch. I think it would just be a bit healthier for the ratings of the league if the Bills had a chance at a Super Bowl against the Eagles. Now, don't get me wrong, the Commanders in the Super Bowl would also be a good story too, and it would be a dynasty of a story for Jayden Daniels. It would be a historical story for Jayden Daniels, a rookie quarterback going to the Super Bowl and potentially winning it. Yeah, that would be a story we talk about for the ages. There's lots of great stories to make out of these matchups. There's lots of great stories behind the people that are playing in these matchups, but there's only two teams that can make it, and there's only one team that had two teams. Talking about the Bills, there's only one team that's made four Super Bowl appearances and have lost all four playoff or Super Bowl appearances. Excuse me. I think Bills, this is your year. Bills Mafia, this is your year. It's time to go out and get over the hump of Patrick Mahomes. It's time to go out and win the big one. So with that being said, I'm rocking with Bills Mafia, and I'm calling a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl. Might not be exactly what a lot of NFL fans want to see, but I think, again, it's definitely going to be much healthier of a watch than another Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. We don't want to see that, but I think Bills Mafia, they know that the world is on their side, and they know that it's time to beat the nemesis in Patrick Mahomes. So I think they're going to get the job done. So I think it's going to be an Eagles-Bills Super Bowl, just like I predicted in my prediction video for the playoffs in general. Bills Mafia, I'm by your side. I think a majority of non-Chiefs fans are by your side. It's time to get the job done. We are all with you. We are all rooting for you, and we are all excited to see you take down a dynasty, essentially. See you prove the doubters wrong, that you are Super Bowl caliber, you are MVP caliber, that your team is capable of winning a Super Bowl. And I think they are. With that being said, I think the Super Bowl for the 2024 NFL season is going to be the Bills and the Eagles. Now, again, I wouldn't be surprised if, the Commanders pulled another upset and beat the Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And it would make for a great historical story that we talk about for the ages, and Jayden Daniels leading a team in his first year ever to a Super Bowl. And it would be an even more historical season if he won it. It would even be more historical if he beat the Chiefs. So there's a lot of stories that you can make out of these matchups. But again, only two teams can make it. Only one team has lost in their 4 appearances in the Super Bowl, being the Bills. And one team is on the verge of a three-peat and is hated in the nation as of right now. So only 2 teams can make it. And I'm picking the Eagles and the Bills to make it. I think that's going to be the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if the Eagles and the Bills lost. I would not be surprised if one or the other lost. But, in my opinion, that is the Super Bowl that we will be getting. It might not be the healthiest watch, might not be the healthiest for the ratings, but it's certainly going to be healthier than another Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen knows that this is his year. Bills Mafia knows that this is their year. They know they're going to have an all-out performance against a team that is also familiar with this type of timing and territory. And Josh Allen knows that this is going to define a lot. It's going to define a lot of things about him. It's going to define a lot of things about the team. And it's going to say a lot. So, with that being said, Bills Mafia, I am with you. It's time to beat the Chiefs. And I think you guys are more than capable of doing so. So, again, Eagles, Bills, I'm calling it. That's the Super Bowl. And I could be wrong. Who knows? I could be wrong. I'll own up to it. But I think that's going to be the Super Bowl. I will be watching both games very closely. I believe the NFC Championship game is at 3:30, I believe. And the AFC Championship game is going to be later. I think those placements are just fine where they're at. You know, the Bills-Chiefs game is going to be the most anticipated game of that day. So I'm not surprised if that game is played later at night in prime time. I would not be surprised. That's arguably going to be the biggest game of the year. So, with that being said, this has been episode 10 of the Life's Playbook podcast. It has now been 1 month since starting the show. It's hard to believe. I started the show on December 22nd. It's now been 1 month since, well, on yesterday it's been 1 month. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to all of the viewers who, again, maybe don't watch on a daily basis, but at least watch every now and then and view, my TikToks and the shorts and the Insta page and follow. I appreciate all of you guys. You guys are making the dream possible. You guys are making the show possible. And anyone who views this or any clips out there that I post, I just want to give a huge shout out to you guys for making the dream possible, for making the dream come true. I'm very pleased with the direction that the show is going. I'm very pleased with the views that I've been getting over this past month. And again, the show's only going to get better and better and better. Again, I'm still working on an intro and an outro for the show to make it more professional looking. Speaking of professional looking, new logo in the building. There's a new logo for the show now. But yes, the show's only going to keep getting better and better and better throughout the year. And I just want to, I appreciate all of you guys that watch my content. Again, not on a daily, but every now and then. I appreciate all the views and the likes and the follows and whatnot that I've been getting over the past couple of months. Keep it up. I appreciate you guys. So, with that being said, thank you guys for making this dream possible and setting the show off on the right track. With that being said, I will catch you guys Sunday for episode 11 of the show. With that being said, peace out. The game never ends here at the Life's Playbook podcast.